Honorable Minister Fikile Mbalula. At this point, let's put our hands and again stand up to welcome the President to the podium. President of the Republic of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program Director, MEC Mamabolo, Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, Premier of Gauteng, David Makura, Executive Mayor of Lesedi Municipality, Councillor Lerato Maloka, MECs from various provinces, mayors who are present here, officers, members and bikers of our law enforcement agencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Now, it's always a pleasure and a joy to listen to Minister of Transport, but this morning he was talking about girlfriends and boyfriends. I don't know what he knows about that. I'm honored to be part of this launch. It's a real joy and a pleasure to have been allowed to be here and to have also participated in the roadblock that they asked me to be a police official in, as I was checking the licenses of people, checking the roadworthiness of the vehicles, and also to see our facility of checking the roadworthiness of vehicles and how it operates. I was really impressed as I went around and talked to the officers and saw that they are absolutely diligent in executing their tasks. I'd like to thank you, all of you as officers, even as bikers, for the wonderful work that you do. Thank you very much. The nation is proud of you. It is good and noteworthy that this 1st October Transport Month of this 6th administration is being launched and taking place along the N3, which is one of our most important economic arteries in our country. This freeway is also an example of the remarkable infrastructure we've been able to build and to maintain during our 25 years of freedom and democracy. When Minister Mbalula speaks proudly of our road infrastructure, he is indeed telling the absolute truth, because our road infrastructure is something that many people who come visiting our nation are quite amazed at and are deeply impressed about. So we can be proud that we have on the main arteries of our nation really good road infrastructure. However, we are also here today to acknowledge the tragic human and economic cost that is inflicted by collisions and accidents along this freeway, as well as many other roadways around our country. With us today are a number of people who are survivors of such accidents and people who have experienced loss in their own families or amongst their friends and colleagues. We offer all of you our heartfelt sympathy and support, and the commitment that government and all the sectors of society will continue to work very hard together to achieve a change in road user behavior. And this launch here is about changing road user behavior, that as South Africans, as we use the roads of our country, we must change our behavior, our approach, and our disposition when we are on the roads. Our roads won't become safer unless we change our attitudes as road users. Safer roads do not begin with more police or greater enforcement. We will have safer roads when we begin to take into account of the interests of all road users, such as pedestrians, other drivers, passengers, or cyclists, when we embark on our journeys. And safer roads begin with checking our vehicles, keeping them off the road if they are not roadworthy. Now, I was very impressed when I was taken to the mobile testing station, when Officer Mlambo ran that testing process, the mobile one on the road, and was able to show me how it is able to look underneath to see that everything is still well fastened, the brakes, the balancing of the wheels, and all that. And he then gave a printed report which showed that indeed this system does work, which showed that the balancing was a little bit out of line here, the brakes were still okay. And when I asked where this was made, the Premier was the first to respond and said, it is made here in South Africa, right here in this province. So I was very proud. But then I was told something else, that when road users, some road users know that this mobile unit has been installed in a particular road, some road users phone each other and they tell them to divert. So sizawuzi installer kuzo zonke indawo, there won't be any place to hide or to run away to. Now, safer roads also begin with an understanding that no one owns the road, and that the roads are stretches of infrastructure we share, all of us as citizens, as a common benefit to all of us. So this means that no one should ever, as they use the road, think that the road belongs to them and that they must do as they wish on the road. They must always, everybody must always know that when we use the road, we must use the road with great respect to other users of the road. In fact, when we drive, all of us as South Africans, we must drive knowing that we are not only driving for ourselves, but we are also driving for other people, and take the interests of other road users into account. And safer roads begin with mutual respect between law enforcement officers as well as road users. We all have a right to safety, and it is up to each of us to create that safety through our own conduct. And today, as we launch this campaign, we are essentially saying, let us take into account that we will only have safer roads if we change our attitude, if we change our conduct. It is up to each one of us in the end, not to drink and drive. It is for me quite a concern that just last night when they had a roadblock, up to 70 people were arrested within a short space of time, having had a little bit too much to drink. We must, as South Africans, do what other countries do. When you are in other countries, you are often, even if you are in a party or so, someone who is going to drive will always say, I cannot even touch a little sip of wine or any alcohol because I am going to drive. This is something that we must inculcate in our own citizens, that if you know you are going to drive, you must not even touch a sip of alcohol. And we are going to change the law now to ensure that we actually bring down the threshold, so that those who are used to drinking and driving must know that we are now going to be very firm. We are going to take strong action, because it is people who drink and drive who kill people, and we must stop the killing on our roads through people who are drinking and driving. It is about time now that as South Africans, we must start respecting the law. Much of lawlessness is spreading throughout our country, and we've now become used as South Africans that we can do whatever we like. We cannot have a lawless country. We cannot have a country where there is no rule of law. Rule of law must be the order of the day here in South Africa, and we are going to make sure that it happens. We are very proud of our officers on the road who are the guardians of the rule of law. I'd like to thank you and applaud you for the work that you do in making sure that those road users who don't obey the law, you take them to book. And last night you arrested 70, and I am very happy with the work that you did last night. Please continue. Now, each one of us as South Africans, we must have our individual sense of responsibility that all of us must act responsibly. Yes, from a traffic official. And we were very embarrassed when a traffic official was caught poop drunk, completely drunk. And that should never happen. That should never happen. It is our responsibility, all of us, to make sure that people drive carefully on the road. We arrive alive wherever we're going, uninjured, and without any infringements, without any fines, without any judgments against our names all the time. There should be no need for families to plant crosses on the roads and place flowers along our sidewalks and our roadsides because somebody has died on our roads. It pains me that our country continues to experience many deaths on our roads, and people die in their thousands a year, and people who do not need to die. And when it is often either Christmas period when people travel, Easter weekends and long.
All right, we do apologize. We seem to have lost that signal to the president delivering the keynote address. We understand that we've got that signal back. Let's go there now live.
As drivers, as road users, in addition to the immense human cost of fatal accidents, there is obviously a significant economic cost. Such accidents cost the country an estimated 147 billion rand every year. 147 billion rand is a lot of money. But that becomes the cost when we get involved in accidents that result in the deaths of South Africans. We must stop this dire situation for the sake of preserving the health of our people, but also the productivity of our country. In recognition of these challenges, South Africa has committed itself to the United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety, which seeks to reduce road fatalities and injuries. Now, which means that the world is now focusing on us, is going to focus on us, and the world at the United Nations level expects us as South Africa to improve our performance. They expect us as road users to improve the way we use the road. They are now going to shine a torch on what we do on our roads. So we have become part of that commitment. And as part of this commitment, government has introduced several measures that will usher in the manner in which road traffic safety issues are addressed. The administration, adjudication of road traffic offences Act is one of the interventions that Minister Mbalula spoke about to form a more effective and efficient link between enforcement and a transparent and fair adjudication process. The Act promotes responsible behavior of our roads or on our roads through the creation of a demerit system, as the Minister said, which introduces meaningful consequences for reckless, negligent, and inconsiderate conduct. With this, South Africa is joining a growing number of countries in the world where the consequences of infringing the law and offenses are felt in the pockets, in the livelihoods, and in the lives of those who break the law. Our roads are important, and they are an important part of the national transport system that we want. Before the dawn of democracy in 1994, we all know that our country did not have a cohesive, integrated transport system. Transport infrastructure served only a minority of South Africans in an economy which was isolated, which was physically and politically isolated from world markets. Logistics entailed connections between industrial hubs and mining areas for the purpose of ferrying goods to harbors and airports. Elsewhere throughout the country, many of our people were left unconnected through the road infrastructure, and they were left isolated in the rural areas, and even in the townships. The roads in the township where I grew up were just, gravel roads with many potholes and big ditches, and it only started changing after democracy. The available modes of public transport services, design of our cities and towns and rural areas meant that the majority of our people lived far away from work, far away from educational opportunities and other services. Now, to this day, the cost of transport contributes to the impoverishment of our people. Many of our people spend easily 40 to 45, even to 50% of their income on transport, because the apartheid spatial infrastructure was such that the poorer people, black people, lived far further and further and further away from the industrial centers where they worked and places of work. This has an impact on the quality of life of millions of South Africans and the cohesion of our families. Now today, as we mark 14 years since the launch of October Transport Month, we can point to important progress in developing integrated public transport systems that connect our major economic hubs and townships. Millions of our commuters are now benefiting from integrated public transport in metros such as Johannesburg, Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, Cape Town, eThekwini. These help to ensure that people can get to work safely and that they can get to work on time. Even so, we remain concerned about the persistence of vandalism of public assets in various parts of the country and commuters' vulnerability to crime when they use public transport. During this October Transport Month, we want to invite South Africans once again to use public transport as much as possible, to share vehicles, to cycle to work, to walk to work where they can, not only to reduce congestion and carbon emissions, but as part of engaging with each other.
All right, these proverbial gremlins in the system, we do apologize for that. We're going to try and strengthen that signal and bring you the President's keynote address at the official launch of the October Transport Month campaign. It's all aimed at bringing down these road fatalities in South Africa. And let's just recap of what the President has said. He says roads won't become safer if we don't change our attitudes as road users. That's very key as well. He says safer roads begins with checking your vehicles and keeping them off the roads if they do not meet the actual standard and they are not roadworthy. Something very interesting that the President just said a short while ago. He says that changing the law to bring down the threshold with regards to the blood alcohol limit in terms of drinking and driving. So one to watch out in terms of how this unfolds. And also spoke about this demerit system, which he says introduces a meaningful consequences in terms of, defaulters on our roads. Now, just to give you a bit of a sense in terms of this demerit system and how it works, it will basically, each driver will start off from 0. Points and earning certain points, certain demerit points for each violation of the traffic law. Now, once you reach 12 points, we're told, the licenses will be suspended. Now, if we heard correctly, the Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, did say that this will be implemented, the AARTO Act will be implemented in June. We'll get some clarification on that. We haven't heard the President confirm that, but as it stands, from what we've heard, the Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, saying that the law, the AARTO law, which was signed into law by the President in August, will be implemented in June next year. Stand by for confirmation on that. So once we fix up that line, we'll try to bring that to you as soon as possible. All right, so let's just get you a quick update with regards to the cricket at South Africa and India currently playing